Hello and welcome to another episode of Junior Fisherman. In this episode I'm going to be showing you how to fish jigs and chatterbaits. Now, swim jigs and chatterbaits are absolutely one of my favorite kinds of lure to fish simply because of their versatility and their effectiveness in catching bass. Now, swim jigs are awesome. They catch a lot of fish and it's extremely versatile because you can fish them under docks in any kind of cover. You can flip them, you can pitch them, and you can also swim them. Chatterbaits aren't quite as versatile, but they're another great bait. And then you have finesse jigs, which are just awesome and catch tons of bass. So Field and Stream actually did a study. 75% of people they asked said they'd use a jig if they could only have one lure. It's just because it catches fish. So this here is my jig box. It's a Plano jig box. It's not large. I don't actually have a ton of jigs. I'll show you. I'm going to talk about finesse jigs first. Now, finesse jigs are an excellent way to catch lots of bass, and they're easy to fish. This here is a Lucky Strike finesse jig. This is a chartreuse black color. Now, finesse jigs are usually small and not very bulky, small, and got this frayed neck. You may be thinking, well, what's that for? It simply makes it, this pushes water and gives out a little bit of vibration, but the rest of it is just supposed to look like a small bite-sized meal. The mistake most people make when fishing these is they fish them only when they think the bite is tough, only when they think finesse fishing is going to work. Only those, that's not the only time you need to fish a finesse jig. You want to fish a finesse jig a lot. Finesse jigs can work when the fish are extremely active as well. And even when if you don't know, throw a finesse jig, you're likely to catch a nice bass. Simply because it looks like a nice bite-sized meal for large fish, yet it's small enough for small fish to eat and it won't scare them away. So you'll catch a lot of fish with this. I like fishing this on a 6-foot medium action bait casting rod with about either 30-pound braid or 15-pound fluorocarbon, and that's what I use. I usually use a Yum chunk trailer, something small. You don't want to beef it up, and just chuck this around. Rip Rap's an excellent place to fish this. Logs are an excellent place to fish this. Around docks is a great place to fish this. Hard bottom you can bounce it off of. Rocks, sticks, timber, that kind of stuff is where you want to fish a finesse jig. Now, don't go this is not a jig for flipping and pitching. It does not have a stout hook, and it does not have a very stout weed guard. You don't want to throw this in thick, heavy cover. Along the edges of that is great before you punch in the middle to catch any cruisers around the edge. And otherwise, you don't want to fish. You don't want to flip and punch this. It's not. You're going to lose a lot of jigs, and you're probably just not going to have much fun. Moving on, I'm going to go to chatterbaits. I have several chatterbaits. I don't fish them nearly enough. That's a swim jig. Here it is. And I have two Z-Man original chatterbaits, one in chartreuse and one in watermelon candy. Then I have one that you saw in the June Mystery Tackle Box unboxing. Is this bait right here. And I'm going to talk about this one. I'm going to show you because it's easy to see. This is a sort of different chatterbait. It's got a Texas rigged hook, so you can Texas rig your soft plastics. I'm not sure how that does. I've not fished this yet, but I will say it looks quite good. Now, a chatterbait is a lot like a swim jig, except it has a blade. This blade causes a lot of vibration and does this in the water. It makes it wobble. This can be excellent when the fish are active, when they're chasing bait, or when you're trying to go after fish or mimic shad and stuff. This is what you want to throw. If the fish are not very active, you're going to want to switch to a finesse jig. I know I just said you don't really want to, that's not the only time you want to fish finesse jigs, but if the fish are inactive and you want to fish a jig, fish a finesse jig, you'll catch them. But the chatterbait's not for when fish aren't active. Don't try to force feed them with this. What this is for is when fish are very active, when they're chasing bait, when they're out cruising, when they're up near the surface. This is a great bait to fish this because it mimics bait fish and it can be fished in all the different depths of water. So it's a great bait for fishing when the fish are active in all the different depths of water column. So I like using, once again, medium action bait casting rod, 15-pound fluorocarbon or 30-pound braid, whichever one you like better. And then I will use, on this one I've got a large curl tail grub. On the other one I like this Berkley Ripple Shad small swim bait, and that is what I usually use on there. Moving on to jigs, and moving on to swim jigs. I don't actually own a flipping jig. I like to own a couple swim jigs in a couple natural colors because I usually fish where they're mimicking bluegill. And this is my favorite. It's a Divine 6th Sense swim jig. You saw this in the May Mr. Tacklebuck's unboxing. I love this bait. I've caught several fish on it in several different bodies of water, and it just is great. And I can also flip and pitch with this, which is something that is very important for me. Versatility. I mostly bank fish, and I need to have baits that I don't want to carry a ton of baits. I need baits that are going to do what I need them to. So then we have, so this is a 1/2 ounce swim jig, my favorite weight, in Watermelon Candy. I love this color, and I have 2 swim jigs in it. This one is Watermelon Candy, but oh, what is that? Oh my goodness. Okay, so hang on. The trailers you get with Z-Man are insanely sensitive, and if they bump another kind of plastic, it melts. So alright, but I have another one that has a little bit of red on it, and it's still Watermelon Candy though. Now back to the fishing a swim jig. I like fishing a swim jig on anywhere near grass, anywhere near sort of thick grass or weed lines or reed lines or edges, drop-offs, and rocks. I like fishing it along the edges of any of those things because that's where fish like to hold, especially weeds. Weeds are where a swim jig shines. It's one of the only moving baits if fish are active in weeds that can get in there and not get coated in weeds. So that's where I like to fish them. Once again, I use a medium action bait caster with about 15 to 20-pound fluorocarbon or 30-pound braid. So with this bait, it is key not just to reel it. You don't want to just throw it out and slowly reel back. You can do that, but you also want to do a little jerk of the rod so it goes like this. You can stop it and let it fall and then shake it and all that sort of different things. You can also flip a swim jig up in reeds and in pretty thick cover without getting hung up, as it has a very stout hook and a nice weed guard. And that's what I like to do with the swim jig. I mainly reel it and give it some jerks. I like mimicking bluegill with it because most of the places I fish, that's what they're eating, bluegill. So that is kind of what I tend to try to mimic with a swim jig, is the natural forage in the body of water, which is usually bluegill. Now, it's not good for murky water because it doesn't send off a ton of vibration, and it's not good for insanely clear water. You want to switch to smaller finesse things in that because they're not going to be able, they're going to see the hook and stuff. But in, you know, slightly stained water or relatively clear water or green water that's fed by springs, it is phenomenal. And for my trailer, I like the Flappy Daddy. I love this bait for this in Watermelon Candy. It absolutely rocks. It has so much action in the water and is one of the greatest trailers I personally have ever used. So definitely very cool. And that is how I fish swim jigs, and that's the tackle I use, where I fish them, how I fish them. And if you try out these things, I'm pretty sure you will catch some fish. So thanks for watching. Get out there and catch some more fish.